is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Crunch Time. You know the drill. To the sharpest minds in the biz. Going to take you up to lock. Going to take you through lock. Always a little fired up when we get the music as an intro. It gets me hyped. It gets me pumped. And so does seeing these two faces here. We got my guy Squirrel in the house. What up, bud?
Yeah. 3-game slate. It's been exciting.
And it is a non-weather one, which is great. 2 indoor games, or at least 2 games that have a roof. And then 1 game with great weather in Minnesota. So no weather concerns out there. It's 3 games, ice. Do we even attempt cash on a 3-game slate? I know you're not a cash guy to begin with, but do people?
Some people do. I definitely don't recommend it on this slate. It is not the prettiest of pitching slates by any means. So it's the most blender slate of all time. I'll say that. Like, you can literally do whatever you want on this slate. So I would probably avoid cash game for this.
Okay, well that does make it fun for tournaments. I assume you guys have some takes, have some leans, and if all the pitchers suck, maybe you guys have different takes and different leans, and that always makes the show even a little bit more interesting. A few people saying, "What's up? What up? Hey, thanks for joining us here early today. We appreciate it, guys. We will have another show later today because we've got an evening slate to handle as well." Guys, let's dive into the content. And Ice, I feel like you started us off on a nice note saying these pitchers are not great, but on FanDuel you need 1 and on DK you need 2. So walk the people through what your approach is.
Yeah, so I'll just start off by saying on the slate overall, I would let ownership be my primary driver of what I'm doing on the slate. Like, that's how close together everything is. Even the offenses are all bunched up right around 4 runs. Like, we don't have any team totals over 5. The lowest one is 3.8. So everything is so bunched together. You can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. But as is generally the case, ownership is going to flock to certain plays, and they're only, just very slightly better than the next guy. So just jumping into the pitching, Jameson Taillon is at the top of the range. He gets a matchup against Milwaukee, who's been really good against right-handed pitching. His strikeout rate is all the way down at 15% this season. So most expensive pitcher on the slate with a 15% strikeout rate. And he's going to be probably the most owned pitcher on the slate. It just does not sound like great chalk.
And just looking at the fantasy points column, our projected fantasy points, the same as Paddock, roughly the same as Alexander. It does not scream woo, what a play.
Yeah, it's extremely bunched up. From the projections, the ownership is probably going to be fairly bunched. So this is not a good pitching slate to have a strong conviction play on any of these guys. And unfortunately, maybe we'll flip over the cards and Taillon will be 50% and Paddock will be 30%, but we have them projected within four ownership points of each other. So it's hard to know where to take the stands to, and projections are backing that up as well. Paddock is the next guy in line. His skills have been slightly better this season. Strikeout rate up near 21%, walk rate all the way down at 4%. So if you're just looking at who has the best skills on the slate, it's probably Chris Paddock. I don't love the matchup for him as he gets Kansas City. They are without Michael Massey, which helps a little bit, but they still have Bobby Witt and Sal Perez. So still a pretty tough matchup for Paddock. The other thing I'll say is salary doesn't really matter on this slate. There's no pitchers to pay up for. The highest price pitcher on DraftKings at 8,300. We're going to have plenty of salary. You're going to be leaving salary on the table in a lot of your builds. So the pricing on these guys doesn't even matter. And literally all 6 pitchers are absolutely in play. Just going down the list, Colin Ray against the Cubs. The Cubs have struggled a little bit here recently. They've been striking out a ton. Colin Ray is not an exciting pitcher to roster in DFS. Another 15% strikeout rate guy. Tyler Alexander might be the best upside play on the slate. His 18% strikeout rate. He gets a matchup against Oakland. We're talking about Tyler Alexander here, who's not even starting the game, by the way. He's following an opener. So that adds a little bit of fun risk to it. He has been consistently coming in behind openers all season, so I wouldn't worry about him not pitching necessarily. You do worry about how many innings is he going to throw in this spot. but it does give him a little bit more win equity. And Tampa Bay is favored in the game, so like that definitely helps his projection. And then the final pitcher to talk about is I guess I skipped over Daniel Lynch. Lynch is coming up from AAA to make a start. He's thrown 90 pitches in each of his last 2 AAA starts, so no pitch count concerns there. Tough matchup for him against Minnesota. A lot of power in the Minnesota lineup. And then Hogan Harris, another guy who does not have very much MLB experience. A matchup against Tampa Bay. There's nothing really exciting to say about any of these guys. If I had to pick my favorite of the bunch, it's probably Tyler Alexander. I don't love playing Tyler Alexander at 40% ownership, but like, there's just nothing good to say about these guys.
Is there anyone who you are fully out on here, or it seems like you're okay with literally every pitcher, maybe except the opener, I guess?
I'm literally okay with every single pitcher. Just there's nothing to separate them. Like I would say Alexander, because of the matchup, is probably in the best spot, but you have the length concerns. It's just hard to have a strong conviction take on this slate. They're all kind of the same guy. Like they're all in that like 15 to 20% strikeout range. They all have pretty decent control. Like they're all the same guy.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And give me your top 3 ownership wise. And I'm sorry if I missed it earlier.
Alexander is number 1. And then it's still Taillon and Paddock. When we get to the stacks, I'm definitely playing stacks against both of those guys as well. But it's hard to get different at pitching. So that's why I'm going to attack some of these higher owned pitching and just hope that I hit the right combination.
Okay, that's fair. Squirrel, talk to me about what you're doing ownership wise first. Any of these dudes you're off on?
No, not really. I think you could even make an argument that it's not that much of a stretch that a bunch of them will have negative points and that you'll want the opener because you might grab up a couple strikeouts and then and also like the fact that Oakland is like pretty anemic on offense. Makes me like maybe he'll last a little bit longer. Like maybe he'll go an inning and a half. So yeah, I don't know. There's just not much to say on this slate. Like these guys, I was actually thinking that Paddock might be a little bit higher owned than Taillon. I don't know. I think the Royals are probably my favorite stack because I think that Paddock will be so high owned. These are just about the worst pitchers that we've been able to say are the best pitchers on the slate.
Yeah.
Just because there's only 3 games, and there was like a little bit of a backstory, right, where Brady Singer was supposed to start, and he was going to be the clear chocolate pitcher. And I was saying, well, maybe you want to play Minnesota bats against Singer because they'll be so low owned, because Singer will have such high ownership. Then Singer was scratched, and now Minnesota is actually projecting as one of the top offenses on the slate. So I actually go the other way and say, well, maybe you want to play Kansas City as a full stack against like Chris Paddock. I think you can definitely play Milwaukee as well under the same thought process. They're just the home team. This really is a slate where if you kind of like just gave everybody the same exact projection, what would we do?
Right.
And this is it. Yeah, it's here.
Do you have any strong leans, guys, that you're over the field on, overweight on, just like even if they're projected similarly, like a gut feel of a guy that you like more than the rest?
In terms of the pitchers?
Yeah, sure.
No. I like the idea maybe of going with Alexander because he has the PLR instead of the SP or whatever on DraftKings instead of the check mark. He's got the green like PLR that could scare some people off. And Oakland is probably the worst offense on the slate. So yeah, I guess if I'm gonna lean one way, it would be to Alexander. Just because I do think like that PLR could cause his ownership to be a little bit less than the 40% we've got shown.
Okay, that's fair.
Alexander and Lynch. That's the pairing.
That's your take, Alexander and Lynch.
Just because Lynch is the one guy that I think is the most viable that doesn't project for the same obscene amount of ownership as the rest, which just because of that he's lower owned may raise it, but he's filling in for a guy who was scratched. I think that might lower the ownership too. That's my take.
Okay, very good. Well, what I'm interested in, I guess, is if all of these pitchers are just about equal, it makes me feel like maybe all the stacks are just about equal and we're in the exact same spot. Squirrel, what are we doing here bat-wise?
So my favorite stack on the day is actually Kansas City because I don't think that's entirely true that if all the pitchers are equal, all the stacks are equal.
Mhm.
Something I'm doing more this season, and I've done it, probably more than most people in past seasons, is playing road teams just because they get the 9th inning at bats. Like they are guaranteed to get 9 innings of at bats. Whereas if the home team's winning, they get 8 innings of at bats.
Mhm.
And we want generally a team that's going to be winning. So yeah, I don't know. I actually kind of give the lean in terms of the top stack to Kansas City, just because they've got speed, they've got power. Speed, stolen bases is something that doesn't always show up in run totals, implied run totals, which is something that people look at a lot, and it get a lot of implied run totals going to projections depending on how you do the projection. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Kansas City just because they can hit for power, hit for speed. They have good players at what are sometimes difficult to fill positions. So yeah, they're probably my top stack. I think you could make an argument for Minnesota on the other side of that game. They are the home team. If you want to play Milwaukee because they're a decent offense that's facing what could be a chalky pitcher, I think that's reasonable. And Tampa Bay, I think, is in a good spot as well. But that's just 4 of the 6 teams playing on the slate that game. So
Okay, great. Okay, Ice, your thoughts? You have a strong lean on a favorite team out there?
Strong is definitely not the word I would use. I literally think all 6 stacks are very playable. Also, don't be afraid to play a hitter or 2 against the pitcher that you're playing in the same lineup. Like, I think that's totally viable on a small slate. Also helps you differentiate a little bit. If I had to pick a favorite, I think mine would be Milwaukee, and it's for the speed aspect of the stack. Tyon is a guy that struggles with limiting stolen bases, and Milwaukee is one of the top stolen base teams in the league. Like that's just one separator when they're on a slate where there's just not much separation. So Milwaukee would be my favorite. I like attacking the higher owned pitching. So I like Squirrel's Call on Kansas City a ton. I do think that Paddock and Tyon will be the highest owned as well. So that's just another reason that I'm going after Milwaukee and Kansas City more than anybody else. I think the Cubs are totally fine. I think Minnesota is totally fine. Like, these are not pitchers that we're afraid of. So, like, certainly any of these offenses could score enough runs where they're the top scoring team on the slate. Like, if you told me Oakland is the top scoring team on the slate, I would not be like shocked by any means. Like, I think that's the least likely outcome, but it would not be a shock by any means.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting stuff, guys. Let's go around the horn. We'll try to give people some positional plays here and maybe get to some home run calls as well. But let's start at the catcher spot. Ice, what do you got?
Salvador Perez looks like a fantastic option, as he typically is. And as I mentioned, salary is not really a thing. Pitching is cheap. There's plenty of value bats as well. So getting up to Sal Perez is a great option. Ryan Jeffers has absolutely smashed left-handed pitching this season, so really like him against Daniel Lynch. William Contreras has been outstanding this season. Shea Langeliers, if you will, has a lot of power, so certainly don't mind him. Gary Sanchez has a ton of power as well, so pretty strong catching position here for 3 games.
Okay, Squirrel, any other names you want to throw in?
No, that just about covers it. It is an oddly strong catcher position for 3 games on a slate, and there's a bunch of catchers too. I think there's like 9 catchers that are 9 guys that are catcher eligible on DraftKings with only 6 teams in play.
Yeah, a lot of teams playing 2 catchers.
Right.
A lot of teams have 2 catchers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Jeffers and Salvi Perez are probably the 2 strongest as we've got projected there, and then William Contreras as well.
Okay. How about first base?
First base, I think. Salvi Perez also first base eligible on DraftKings. I think Vinny Pasquantino probably a little bit higher on the Kansas City guys than most people will be, and then Yandy Diaz facing a left-hander for Tampa Bay.
Okay. The Ice, thoughts at first?
Yeah, love both the Kansas City guys. Pasquantino, the addition here at first. Michael Busch is one of my favorite plays as well. Big time power guy. Ray struggles with left-handed power. Bowers is absolutely in play. Tyon, another pitcher who's struggled with left-handed power. So any of these first basemen in play.
Okay, second base.
Bryce Terang is priced up on DraftKings and projecting to be the chalk. He is under 3K on FanDuel, so he's going to be like mega chalk there. He is one of the best stolen base threats for Milwaukee, and that's an angle that I mentioned leaning into. Terang is the obvious option there, so like I don't hate going with different Milwaukee players, but I certainly don't have any reservations about Terang's production in this spot. It's just not loving the ownership. On FanDuel, he's so cheap, he's going to be extremely popular, but salary is not really a thing, so it's not as valuable as it would be on a different slate. It's also not the strongest position. I don't mind any of these guys. Nico Horner would probably be my second favorite option. Nick Lofton is in the 6 hole for Kansas City. He looks pretty good. But yeah, probably one of the weaker positions on the slate.
Okay. Squirrel, your thoughts at second?
Yeah, just a couple other names I'll throw off. Like Abraham Toro is second base eligible on FanDuel, and he's leading off. And I also actually like the other Oakland second baseman, Zach Geloff.
Okay, wonderful. By the way, TJ saying if we get to 50 likes, we can get the Spidey bombs. Hit the thumbs up. It's free content. We're not asking for $50, just 50 thumbs ups. That's, just one from you. You don't need to do it 50 times. Just one person. Everybody hit it. And then we get free content. Everybody likes that. Squirrel, your thoughts at third base. What do you got?
Sure. So it's actually where we get a bunch of cleanup hitters. But I like Christopher Morel hitting cleanup for the Cubs, Jose Miranda hitting cleanup for the Twins, and Isaac Paredes hitting cleanup for Tampa Bay, and then also Michael Garcia leading off for Kansas City.
Ice, any other names?
No other names. Those would be my favorite as well. Morel first, then Miranda, Paredes. Yeah, I mean, they're all in play, but my 4 favorite are the same that Squirrel named.
Very good. Take me to shortstop.
All right. Bobby Witt Jr. is the best play on the slate. He's the most talented hitter on the slate, and we have no issues with salary. So play some Bobby Witt. He's going to be popular, but he also has that ability where he can absolutely break a slate with 2 home runs and a stolen base or something like that. So definitely get some Bobby Witt. Willie Adames is fine as well against Tyon. Dansby Swanson is still cheap. It's been a really rough go for Swanson this season, but theoretically he's more talented than the production that he showed this season. Certainly don't mind the matchup there against Ray. Carlos Correa against a lefty is always in play.
Okay. I believe, does that bring us to the outfield? Or no, we need Squirrel stopped at short.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think Bobby Witt is the best hitter on the slate, but he's also maybe not going to be the highest owned just because he's facing Paddock, who's going to be one of the popular pitchers. So if you're like running a bunch of lineups, but you forget to change the setting on your optimizer, you won't get Bobby Witt. You're playing Paddock.
Okay.
Yeah, you could play Carlos Correa or Willie Adames, maybe as an ownership. If you do think Witt will be higher owned and you want to pivot, a few of these guys could hit a home run and that breaks the shortstop position. But I think the most likely guy to do that is Bobby Witt.
Okay, take me to the outfield.
Outfield, yeah. I mean, got some of the higher priced, better hitters on the slate, even on a 3-game slate. I think Byron Buxton is one of the better overall hitters on the slate. Randy Arozarena, Christian Yelich. It's not really a slate where you need a bunch of value. Maybe Daz Cameron at 2,500 would be the best value play, or Manuel Margot leading off from Minnesota. But I don't really know if you need the value.
Yeah. Okay. Ice, any other names?
Yeah, I really like the Cubs outfielders. Cody Bellinger, Mike Tauchman, Ian Happ, and then even Pete Crow Armstrong. Like Squirrel said, we don't really need value, but Crow Armstrong is an uber talented prospect. He's buried in the 8 hole. So stacking Cubs, that's one of my favorite ways to differentiate a Cubs stack. He has power and speed upside, so he's more talented than his price tag. Buxton, I agree, is one of the best hitters on the slate. He's also way too cheap on FanDuel. But the upside there is certainly worth it. Yelich is worth paying up for as well. We've been saying it at every position, like salary just isn't really a thing. So don't be afraid to get up to some Yelich. A little stolen base upside there. Hits from the left side. Tyon struggles with left-handed power. Let's see if there's any other names I want to highlight. I think that about covers it.
Okay. Guys, let's do a couple home run calls, and then we'll answer a few questions, and we'll bounce on out of here. How about some squirrel nuts?
Let's see. I'll go with Byron Buxton, and I'll go with Christian Yelich.
Okay. Eisters Fleisters.
Squirrel took my Yelich. I was going there as well. So I'm pivoting here. I have My other one was Michael Bush. I really like him today. And for a second one, I'll go with another Cub. Give me Ian Happ. He's starting to really heat up.
Okay. Can I go Pete Crow Armstrong? Is that viable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Mine is PCA. TJ says, by the way, Yelich was his first Spidey bomb. So we may need a second Spidey bomb. I don't know if we're all in agreement here. We may need another one, but the point is we like it. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if we got any QQs coming in, starting in the RG Discord as always. By the way, if you're not signed up for RotoGrinders Premium, what are you doing? That's where all that's the spot to be. It's the thing to do. As I try to pull up my my promo here. Here we go. Sign up, RG Premium. Exclusive price right now for a 6-month combo subscription is $469.99. That is a savings of $250 as opposed to buying 6 individual month of combo premium. If you want to just dip your toes in the water, test it out. If you don't want to spend that much, $19.99. That's $19.99 will get you a 3-day pass. And you can get your first month of RG Premium for $40 off for a limited time if you want to go in a monthly route. With that, we'll see if there's any QQs coming in. If you've got them, drop them. If not, we will end this early and head on home. As of now, not seeing a whole lot going on. That's good. Have you boys had lunch yet? We'll talk food to buy the people some time. Have we done lunch yet, Squirrel?
No. Got some leftover pizza, so probably just gonna go down.
Are you a cold pizza guy or a reheat pizza guy? And if so, are you microwaving it or are you getting fancy and putting it in like an oven to get the crisp?
Yeah, so I'm a reheater, and sometimes it depends. Like it depends on the time.
How much time do you have? Yeah.
What I often do is I'll like preheat the oven, like preheat the like little toaster oven, put it in the microwave for a minute, and then put it in the oven to get the crispness.
Wow, using multiple. This
Life
is
hack
advanced pizza eating. Yeah, that's nice moves. Ice, have you figured out lunch plans yet?
It's still breakfast time for me.
I was just about to say, yeah. Have you had breakfast yet?
No, I'm generally just coffee in the mornings. For me, I rarely eat breakfast.
That's so weird. I need 3 eggs every morning, or I am just like the angriest human you could imagine. Bacon, egg, and cheese every single day for breakfast is how I roll. Here we go. Jeffrey says, hey, is it okay to play 2 hitters against my pitcher? Squirrel, can you go 2 hitters?
Yeah, absolutely. Like on the slate. Yeah.
Wow, without hesitation. I like that. Gator Nation says, you guys covered everything too perfectly. I tend to agree. I think you did. And truly, we only had one question and we answered it. I think we can get on out of here at this point. So for Squirrel, for Ice, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you later on today. You have been crunched.